about $540 million in payments. This dipped to $276 million in February and rose to $632 million in March before settling at $557 million in April. Remittance inflows from the Nigerian diaspora provided crucial foreign exchange support at this time, totaling $328 million over the same period. And finally, on the stories we are tracking, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that's NNPC, has announced a shutdown of the Port Harcourt refinery beginning from Saturday. This is the second time the refinery has been closed in just 6 months. It was shut down last December after a $1.5 billion rehabilitation. And now onto the big issue that we are tracking this Monday afternoon. It's all about the $225 billion case involving Fidelity Bank, one of Nigeria's largest banks. Let's just dive into a timeline of things that have happened so far concerning this issue. First, there was a bank in the early 2000s called the FSB International Bank. I'm sure not many people, not many Gen Zs will know about the FSB International, but it existed in the early 2000s. FSB gave loans to a company called GCAPA, $3 million and $100 million. The $3 million was secured by a mortgage on a building in Ikoyi here in Lagos and another building in Ibadan. So FSB gave GCAPA loans totaling $3 million and 100 million naira. And these loans were secured with a building in Ikoyi. Fidelity Bank acquired FSB during the banking consolidation of 2005. And which means that Fidelity Bank took on the assets and liabilities of FSB International. Now, at this particular point in time comes another company called Sagecom. Fidelity Bank, after acquiring FSB, took over that property in Ikoyi, and GCAPA reportedly defaulted on the loan, and Fidelity Bank sold the property to this new company, Sagecom, for $350 million. Meanwhile, GCAPA went to court and got a court order stopping Fidelity Bank from taking over the property. But what happened was that Sagecom had already paid and discovered in about 2006 that there was an issue with this building. This was where the legal journey started, with the case going through the Lagos High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. In 2018, the Lagos High Court ruled that Sagecom was owed compensation for years of rental income on the property because Sagecom went to court. They couldn't take possession of this building. It was still with GCAPA, but it had been sold to Sagecom. So Sagecom went to court and got a court order and won a case in 2018. So it was supposed to be paid compensation over the years for rental income that was to have accrued to it from this building. It's a multi-floor building with several apartments, including a penthouse. And in addition to the rental income, Sagecom was also supposed to be paid accruing interest over the years at a compounded rate of 19.5% per annum. In total, the amount awarded to Sagecom was $139 million, which, if you convert it to the present, using the present exchange rate, is 225 billion naira. Fidelity Bank appealed. First of all, lost at the Court of Appeal, and then went to the Supreme Court, where 5 justices ruled unanimously on April 11, that's April 11 this year, upholding the decision of the Court of Appeal, which means that Sagecom is now supposed to be paid that $139 million. But this is one of the areas where things get messy. We're not sure here at Nigeria Info how much of that damage GCAPA is meant to shoulder and how much Fidelity Bank is responsible for. But last week, the bank released a statement accusing GCAPA of orchestrating Sagecom's losses by holding onto the disputed property until 2018. The bank said that it had gone back to court. So the bank has gone back to court for an interpretation of the computation of the judgment sum. At the present exchange rates, the $139 million is 225 billion naira. But Fidelity Bank is favorably disposed to the 2005 exchange rate, which it says converts to 14 billion naira. So Fidelity Bank is saying, hey, we agree that there was a problem. We are willing to pay 14 billion naira and not 225 billion naira. But there's also the 2018 exchange rates when the High Court ruled in favor of Sagecom. If we use that, the amount due to the company would be about 30 billion naira. So now there are three naira figures. There is 14 billion naira if you are using the 2005 exchange rates when this all started. There is 30 billion naira if you are going with the 2018 exchange rates when the High Court ruled in favor of Sagecom. And then there is 225 billion naira, which is the current exchange rates. Shortly, I'll be joined by Kalu, a certified financial education instructor with extensive experience in capital market operations, investment, asset management, and occupational services. So he'll be joining me shortly virtually to just talk about this. We're not going to be going into the legal nitty-gritty because, it's a case in court. And, of course, as a broadcast organization, we are limited to how much we can talk about court issues. But we're going to be discussing how this all affects the bank, investors, and depositors. I'll be back shortly.
Quick catch up, the big issue, stock watch, tip of the week, the number, these and much more on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Commodities, banking, stock, energy, private equity. This is Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Tick, says the clock. What we have to do today is worthy of note.
This is Sunny Side with Joyce, only on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
If news is your quest, or gist your request, well, somewhere over your rainbows.
Over your rainbow!
Is the sunny side.
They better know it!
With Joyce.
Let's talk.
Retail, manufacturing, trade, forest, finance. We talk about it all on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Quick catch up, the big issue, stock watch, tip of the week, the number, these and much more on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Commodities, banking, stock, energy, private equity. This is Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Tick, says the clock. What we have to do today is worthy of note.
This is Sunny Side with Joyce, only on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
If news is your quest, or gist your request, well, somewhere over your rainbows.
Over your rainbow!
Is the sunny side.
They better know it!
With Joyce.
Let's talk.
Quick catch up, the big issue, stock watch, tip of the week, the number, these and much more on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Thanks so much for sticking with me. This is still the Broad Street Drive on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. I'm Nnoruka. Sorry for that really long break, but Joining me right now virtually is Kalu Aja, a financial planner. So, Kalu, thanks for coming on this show today.
That has come about as a result.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, I can. I'm here, Hilary, and I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so we've just been talking about I've introduced the issue with Fidelity Bank. You know how the court case went on from the early 2000s up until now. So just to, of course, I know you know what's happening, but just to bring you up to speed. So Fidelity Bank right now is dealing with three exchange rates. There is the judgment sum is $139 million, which converts to 225 billion naira right now if you're using the current exchange rate. But Fidelity Bank is arguing that the Fidelity Bank wants to pay 14 billion naira, which is the 2005 exchange rate when this whole thing started. And there is another exchange rate, which is the exchange rate of 2018, which converts to about 30 billion naira if you're going to use that when the judgment was given by the Federal High Courts. How much do you think all of this will impact on the bank and its liquidity?
Well, it's a contingent liability in essence. So no one wants to pay any dues that are going to take away cash that would be used for operations. That's the what investors are looking at. And all three scenarios, Fidelity can pay. It's not going to impact their ability to pay. I think it's going to impact maybe the future earnings if you take away that sum of money from their lending. But the courts is going to have to make that judgment on which date and which conversion rate is going to be used. Just to make the point that whichever it is, I'm sure Fidelity would prefer the lower one. They can meet it, i.e., their balance sheet looks strong enough and their cash position looks strong enough to meet it. But I think everyone would prefer to pay the lower amount. Yeah.
This hasn't shaken Fidelity Bank's share price so much. I know at the beginning of this thing, the day when the first judgment was, when the Supreme Court gave its judgment, that's April 11, there was a slight movement in the share price. It lost about 10 naira on the NGX. But on Friday, when the markets closed on Friday, Fidelity Bank's share gained 1 naira and I think 1 naira and 25 kobo, putting it among the top 10 gainers for that day, Friday. What is it? Is this surprising?
Share price is always a reflection of future earnings, and Fidelity Bank is doing a lot more in terms of earnings than just this one court case. They're a tier 2 bank, very, very strong position. They are outside Nigeria as well. So investors have got to weigh all the news around the bank, both the positives and the negatives, and then take a decision to say, okay, does the price really reflect a discount or a premium on future earnings? So what you saw on Friday and also what you saw when the court case was announced was investors taking a decision, oh, is the share price at a discount or at a premium? So not surprising. Again, remember the bank itself fundamentally is strong, but this is going to be a hit on earnings. Has the bank provisioned for this? The bank would have maybe known that this was coming, not the amount, but that the judgment will come in favor or not against it. And I'm sure would have provisioned and all that. If you look at 2024 financials, and nearly 700 billion in terms of cash, 8.8 trillion in terms of total assets, net assets 793 billion. So it's a very, very solid bank in terms of the numbers. So investors also look at these when they take a decision.
So let's take a look at a worst case scenario. If Fidelity Bank has to pay 225 billion naira, how would this affect the bank and affect investors?
Well, it's the same thing as saying what will happen if they have to buy a new, or if they have to pay expense of that amount. That's essentially what it's going to be. We don't want to, just to be clear, we don't want to say things that will negatively affect us. The court's judgment saying that we should not be, we should be mindful of how we talk about the case. But if you paid an amount, if you pay funds out, that's a cost, not an investment. So again, investors would view this as, okay, this is money going out that is not going to go into creating wealth for the bank in future. So of course, they will not take action in terms of how they reprice the bank. Clearly, there will be a hit. If this to be that amount, there will be a hit. But again, There's a court at the side. The court might come back and say pay the lower value. And yeah, it's still going to be a charge on Fidelity. It's still going to be justice, but it'll be a lower charge on Fidelity, and the market will move on from there.
And what could this mean for the broader capital markets in Nigeria, especially with the involvement of a tier one bank?
Yeah, it shows the market is solid and strong, that justice can be implemented without the market crashing. A few decades ago, this sort of really would have collapsed not just this bank, but the banking sector. That, listen, can the banking sector withstand a charge of this amount? But right here, we're talking about perhaps a hit on profit, not a hit on going concern. So I think it just shows how far the Nigerian banking sector, not just this bank, has come in terms of how solid they are. That we can even make a comment about this and not even use the B word or the going out of business. So that's the one positive that they have. This will be a hit clearly, and the entire sector and the stock market and the SEC and all that, they will progress through this. Lessons will be learned and implemented, and I think it will be better for the economy as a whole.
And how do you think the central bank will respond to this situation? Do you think they're going to step in at some point?
How can they step in? It's a legal case. I don't think they can step in.
Okay, but from what you've said so far, it looks as if you are confident that Fidelity Bank will weather through the storm and there will be no need for any intervention of any sort.
I'm looking at the numbers, just the numbers of Fidelity Bank. Like, total assets is 8.8 trillion, right? The net assets, give or take, about 793 billion. Cash position, this is 2024 though, 700 billion cash position. So again, the point I make is that the worst case scenario shows that the bank can afford to pay, but nobody wants to pay a cost. If you get pulled over by the cops and given a speeding ticket, even if you're a millionaire, you don't want to pay a speeding ticket of $10 and all that. So it's a cost to the bank that the bank would have liked to use to grow future earnings. That is clear. But all things being equal, the bank is liquid enough and has the capacity and the asset base to pay. It's a good bank, it's a good name. So they will not be, should we say, shaking to the foundations. You'll find a hit, but it should not be a shake to the foundation of the bank here.
But would you hold the same view concerned with other banks? So how well has the Nigerian bank, let me put it this way, how well has the Nigerian banking industry progressed since the first consolidation, and seeing there is a reconsolidation with banks trying to raise the various terms, 500 billion naira and the rest? How much do you think, I guess my question is, how much do you think this will affect Fidelity Bank's status as one of the 6 largest banks in this country?
Okay, so that's the question. If you take your first question, like I said, this shows the resilience of the banking sector, that we can have this conversation and not worry if the bank is going to close its doors tomorrow. That's the first thing you understand. If you look at the banking result that we're hearing, $1 trillion net, not gross, net profit from a few banks in the banking sector. Nigerian banks have come a long way from 25 billion.
More conversation.
Some banks.
For 3 great seasons, the fans have fought with passion and fire. Their best they brought. The banter was bold, the debates were tight. Each word a weapon, each match a fight. But now it's bigger, the stakes much higher. The battle returns and it's full of fire. Fan Battle 4 with Femi and the gang on 99.3 Nigeria Info. The stage is bang. In partnership with Sports Salon, we raise the game with Gloriana and a shot at fame. Think you've got what it takes to score? Then step right up. It's time for more.
Fan Battle 4 starts Tuesday, June 3rd through July from 7 p.m. weekdays on Nigeria Info.
Fan Battle 4. Let the battle begin.
Shalatam, quality anti-malaria, contains Artemisa and lumefantrine, available in cherry-flavored dispersible tablets with very convenient dosing for kids. Shalatam is also available in tablets for adults. Knock out malaria in 3 days with Shalatam from Shalina Healthcare. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor. Shalatam is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know? Your dose of facts we bet you never knew. Right here on Nigeria Info 99.3.
Shishi. Have you ever wondered what this means or how it came to be? How did the phrase "I don't even have shishi" come to be? This is the backstory. Before 1973, Nigeria was using the British pounds. Among the available coins then was a silver coin with the face of Queen Elizabeth on one side and cocoa board symbol on the other side. This was the 6-pence coin. But our people in the south and the north, due to the difficulty in pronouncing it properly, adulterated this differently. The southerners called it sissy pence, while the northerners called it shishi pence. It was then shortened to sissy or shishi in different regions. This coin was one of the lowest denominations available at that time. So one will easily say, "I don't even have sissy pence to give you," meaning I am broke. This metamorphosed to "I don't even have shishi." So when next you are using this phrase, you will say it knowing you have the backstory.
Another piece of the puzzle now revealed. Keep questioning, keep listening. Only on Nigeria Info 99.3.
For 3 great seasons, the fans have fought with passion and fire, their best they brought. The banter was bold, the debates were tight, each word a weapon, each match a fight. But now it's bigger, the stakes much higher, the battle returns and it's full of fire. And Battle 4 with Femi and the gang, the 99.3 Nigeria Info, the stage is bang. In partnership with Sports Salon, we raise the game with glory, honor, and a shot at fame. Think you've got what it takes to score? Then step right up. It's time for more.
Fan Battle 4 starts Tuesday, June 3rd through July from 7 p.m. weekdays on Nigeria Info.
Fan Battle 4. Let the battle begin.